Los Angeles. What a day, November 18th, 2023, will be in the history of UCLA Bruins football. The lore will always come back to this very day, talking about the day that the Bruins trounced crosstown rival USC in a 38 to 20 victory in a game where they held USC to 6 yards rushing. They showed up with their backs turned against the wall after losing to these two Arizona schools and just put on a masterclass display to the point where we thought it was over, man. We thought, Chip's time may be done here at UCLA. After everything that I've seen, transpire on that football field and everything going on forward, from Martin Jarman's comments today during the game that we were able to hear where he had let Chip know those are just rumors. He doesn't believe that. To Casey Wasserman saying, hey, I don't want Chip fired, to how the team performed for him today. And I've got a direct quote from the locker room, Madman. Ethan Garber's coming out saying that was all for Chip. Like what we did today, that was all for Chip. Just a phenomenal day on so many different levels. And I just want to gauge your level of enthusiasm and interest. You were at the game. You were at the Collie today. Madman, does it get sweeter than this, than trouncing the crosstown rival with a Heisman Trophy quarterback? I don't think it does.
No, it doesn't, Will. No, it doesn't. And I just have one question, in one statement. It's a great day to be alive and be a Bruin. And with everything that was happened over the course of this week and over the course of the last 2 weeks, we didn't know what team we would get given everything that has happened. Will, this has been a soap opera in terms of locker room disunity. You have the players tune Chip out. Is there just a complete fractionization of the team that's taken place? We're already sort of talking about other head coaches. And for this team in this particular situation, after being 6-4, after losing the opportunity to compete for a Pac-12 championship game, to come in and to play the way they played and put their best performance of the season together against the Heisman Trophy winner, against the $100 million coach, against this arch rival across town, and to do what they did in the backdrop of Casey Wasserman having to come to Chip's aid and all the things you mentioned. But Will, to me, it was all summed up in that Garber's quote, where everything that they did for Chip. And for this guy who's been through so much, and obviously he's not your traditional version of charismatic. He's not your traditional version of empathetic. He's not your traditional version of being gregarious. But my goodness, if that is not the greatest litmus test of your leadership and your engagement, when the number one booster in the ecosystem and the athletic director and all of the big power brokers are behind you, and your quarterback, who stayed with you through thick and thin over the years, comes in and says, everything we did today, we did for him. There is no way you can say this guy doesn't have leadership abilities and he doesn't have an ability to galvanize a team when given the right situation. And so I'm so happy for this team. They showed the values of what it means to be a UCLA Bruin: tenacious, gutsy. They were the underdog. They were written off, and they competed, and they believed in each other. And there was just such a beautiful moment there, Will, at the end of the game where they all huddled up together. They all came in a circle with the flag, and they ran to the faithful, the Bruin faithful, in that little sliver in the corner of the Coliseum, and they all celebrated together. And they loved being Bruins, and they loved basking in the victory. And they showed loyalty. They showed tenacity. And it was just an incredible moment and the highlight of this season. And boy, oh boy, when UCLA has it rolling like this, the sky is the limit and anything is possible.
It was such an awesome day because I think, like most of us, we come into this game, two very poor showings in these last losses. And you're thinking of everything that's gone on with USC, and it's likely going to be Caleb Williams' last game in a USC Trojans uniform. And you're just going, there's no way he's going to lose. I know they've had a rough year. I know Lincoln Riley wants to solidify the fan base with a win here. We are against the ropes right now. And the comparison I gave to you over the phone today was this is like Rocky against Apollo Creed, man. Apollo Creed is wailing. And we had the toughness to fight back. And the team, we were disunified 2 weeks ago. Boy, did we get unified in a quick manner this week. It was so beautiful to watch. I want to talk about Garbers. You made some awesome points with Garbers that I think he is a guy that I'm really excited to talk about. I want to talk about Chip's future. I want to talk about all this stuff. But we have to start out with the most badass defense this team, this UCLA school has had in so long. And, for all of USC's faults, no defense to be found whatsoever over there. They have a Heisman Trophy quarterback that's one of the best prospects we've seen in a long time. Lincoln Riley, for all of his faults and what he's done as a head coach at USC, we can all agree this guy has been an offensive innovator in the very highest degree in terms of college football. And for that defense to come out there and just out-tough, out-muscle the unity that they showed on the field, I mean, it was just – I was blown away, man. They let up 6 yards rushing today. It doesn't even make sense. 3 yards, excuse me.
3 yards, Will. That's what I was about to say. You gave
yards.
USC too much credit. You doubled up the credit,
I doubled it up, man.
It was 3 yards rushing, Will. I mean, it was absolutely staggering what I saw. And you knew, I had a sense that this game, a few folks were asking me, what do you think is going to happen? And I said, we'll know within the first drive in terms of this team's level of engagement. And on that first drive, when they were able to stuff USC on that 4th and 1 with Austin Jones on USC side of the field, that set the tone for the entire game. Latu was all over the place and sort of demonstrated what a great player he is. 4 sacks overall for the team, 9 tackles for loss, Will, and they absolutely shut it down. I mean, it was 14-0, all given the defense. They had that stop with Austin Jones. Garbers did a terrific job kind of managing the team down the field with some scrambles, hits Harden on that T formation into the end zone, and then they forced the branch fumble, punch it in again with that beautiful play action to Habermill, and it's 14-0 before you know it. Yeah. And, Will, I thought there was a kind of a critical moment at 14-0 when Devin Kirkwood made the interception, and it looked like this thing was going to run away at the end of the first quarter. UCLA doesn't get any points on that drive. Then they come down, they miss the field goal. It becomes kind of 14-7. And you're starting to wonder, okay, is this where potentially there could be some disunification? Because the defense has played their tail off, but the offense hasn't given enough of a cushion. Does this defense sort of hang in there? And boy, oh boy, those drives, Will, at the end of the first half where Caleb is kind of driving, they get into the red zone. The 2 sacks by Latu, just getting stuffed on those perimeter bubble screens. They stuffed Rice. They stuffed Taj Washington. Marshawn Lloyd couldn't do anything. SC understood that inside the red zone, they were the weaker team. They were the softer team. UCLA completely owned the line of scrimmage. And then at the start of that second half, to have that resounding drive and the toughness of Garbers on that flip ball there, on 3rd and goal as the defender was sort of hanging on his shoulder. And then to get the scoop and score, Will, and then finish it so strongly as they did. There was kind of a garbage touchdown there at the end. This thing was 38-13 with about 3 minutes to go. This defense owned this game. Caleb Williams looked lost. He looked dazed. He looked confused. And 3 yards rushing. Marshawn Lloyd with the fumbles. They couldn't get anything going. And this, just for precedence here, this tied for USC's season low in points. The only other time that happened was against Notre Dame. And Notre Dame forced 4 turnovers and had a number of different short fields. This was in the Coliseum to hold this team that is a top 10 offensive team to basically under 20 points with those last points in garbage time is one of the great defensive performances in the history of this rivalry and one of the great defensive performances in recent Pac-12 memory. This defense is for real, and I believe this defense is going to ride this team to a victory against Cal and a victory in the bowl game and really end this season out strong.
Yeah, man. 4 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. It was just the guys that stepped up on the defensive side of the football. You expect the Latus and the Murphys to make plays out there. But, Kenny Churchwell forcing that fumble in the first half against Zachariah Branch. Carl Jones with that first tackle for a loss to make it a 4th down situation against Austin Jones. Kirkwood, we've talked about him in the past. He's been so inconsistent in the pass game. For him to come down with an interception out there on the sideline when we're up 14-0, that was the first moment where I, computed in my head. I'm like, wow, we've got a real chance at winning this game. I know it was 14-0, but you got to factor in what the USC offense is capable of. And then the last play, man, we have seen flashes of this guy so many times throughout the year. Kamari Ramsey on that 4th down tackle.
Absolutely.
You get Taj Washington, where a guy was in his face, ran through the guy, made the tackle, got Washington out, turnover downs in the middle of the field. just the collection of talent of people stepping up. John Vaughn's made plays out there.
Yeah, that was a great hit that John Vaughn's blew up there in the middle of the third, blew up Caleb on that play. And you could just see, Will, the level of tentativeness that Caleb had over the course of that game, knowing that he was going to get physicaled up. And what I loved about this team, Will, is they just owned laterally. Every time SC tried to do a bubble screen, UCLA was the faster team. Every time USC tried to run up the middle, they got stuffed. UCLA was the tougher team. Every time Caleb tried to sort of throw a ball in traffic, he missed more balls this week, Will, from an accuracy standpoint than he has probably all season in terms of guys that were potentially open that he airmailed. UCLA was the better coach team. I mean, every phase of the game, offense, defense, I don't know about special teams, but we'll just leave it at offense and defense. UCLA was clearly the better team. This was a resounding victory in every sense of the word. And I love the fact that it was such a collection, Will. You mentioned the Latu and the Murphy twins, but the up-and-coming guys. And the fact that Ramsey has now firmly established himself as the anchor of that secondary. And then, of course, the great story, the Cinderella story of this defense all year. Our friend, Will, Alex Johnson with the scoop and score. And just amazing. And then just even the resilience, Will, of a Davies to stay in there and stay competing even after he slipped and fell with that Rice play. And, that could, in games past, in years past, that's a play where the defense and the secondary in particular would have lost confidence. And then if you recall, Will, that game 2 years ago at home against Arizona State, one huge passing play led to 6, 7, 8 other huge passing plays, but not today. Not with this team, not with DeAnton Lynn. It was just one bad play. They flushed it. They moved on. They went to the very next possession, and they were relentless, much the way they were relentless at the beginning of this season with the likes of Utah. I couldn't be more proud of this team and how they competed.
There's so many lessons to kind of get out of this game for UCLA fans. Substance is stronger than style. You
Absolutely.
Look at USC, where it's they throw money at the program like no other program on the West Coast. You get your Lincoln Riley for a $100 million contract, and we're just estimating on what that is. Your Caleb Williams coming in the transfer portal, the NIL stuff. They had the number one transfer portal class, just throwing money at that. At the end of the day, man, values and culture always win over money and attention. And UCLA put that to the test today and showed just how special they were and how prepared they were for the moment. And there's this line I love from one of my favorite movies, A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger, where they go, "You have been weighed, you have been measured, and you have been found wanting." It's from the Bible. And it is a line where it's like, you've been put to the test and you have failed completely. And that is what USC did today on the football field. They failed completely. I'm going to be, as bluntly honest as I can be. And I think some people may look at this from a UCLA podcast point of view. That team looked spineless, had no, heart in the game. So, we talked about disunification with UCLA. Are you kidding me? On that other side of the ball, it looked like nobody wanted to be there. We have people coming to this program for USC from proud institutions like Georgia's national championship teams with Bear Alexander, Shane Lee from Nick Saban teams, Caleb Williams coming over. It just shows you that money can't buy everything. And that is why I've always identified with UCLA more than USC. I'm not an alum. I'll be the first to tell you that. But the underdog nature that UCLA has, their ethics, their values, what they bring to the table, let's get in the dirt. Let's work for it. That blue collar, blue pill, let's go to work and get our stuff done today. It resonates with me, man. It resonates with me today. And I'm so proud. And the guy that personifies that more than anybody, and a perfect lesson for kids watching today, is never give up and keep fighting. Ethan Garbers, man.
Absolutely. Well, let me just say one thing before you go to Garbers there. And, it's the thing that I sort of quoted after the game. And it's you can't buy it. Okay. You can't buy culture. You can't buy heart. You can't buy courage. You can't buy values. You can't buy will. And that's what you saw today, is a team that was committed, that they believed, that they wanted to be UCLA Bruins. What you saw today was the UCLA Bruins beat players that were wearing USC jerseys. There's a difference, okay? The Bruins didn't beat the Trojans. The Bruins beat a collection of guys that were wearing a USC uniform. When you look at the Caleb Williamses and the Lincoln Rileys and all of these transfer portal guys. And it was resonating resoundingly with the USC fans today in their honesty of saying Caleb just doesn't play with passion. He doesn't care about this university. Caleb is Team Caleb, and he's just looking for his next NFL moment. And this is just a stepping stone to the next phase and journey of his career of becoming an NFL quarterback and becoming a multimillionaire. He has never demonstrated the desire to be a USC Trojan. And Lincoln Riley better figure out what it means to be a USC Trojan quickly, because that is going to turn, that fan base is going to turn on him quickly. What you saw here on the other side with the good guys is Chip Kelly, for all his flaws, for everything that has happened over the last 6 years, he wants to be a UCLA Bruin. And he might not be, again, the most charismatic guy with the boosters. He might not be the most charismatic guy with the sponsors. But when he tears up about talking about Leatu Latu's award, when he talks about tearing up whenever he references Terry Donahue's story about him being the coach and the importance of this game when Donahue went 10-9 against SC, and he said that was his greatest achievement, and he tears up every time he talks about that. And he talks about what this university means in terms of books and ball, and in terms of not just building great football players, but great men. There's a soul there. He cares very, very deeply, and he shows it in unorthodox ways. But you saw a guy who loves and breathes UCLA values and Bruin values, and players that rallied around him. If he truly wasn't capable of being a coach, and if he truly was a guy who the team had sort of written off and had checked out, they would not have played as inspired as they did today for him and put the best performance together for this season, Will. So this is all, there's a lesson here very, very deeply in life. You cannot microwave success, and B, there are things that money can't buy. And those things that money can't buy are the most valuable things, the most priceless things, and the things that determine success and failure. And one other thing that I want to sort of point out is the key word that came to mind for me, Will, was the word loyalty. Yeah. Chip was loyal to what it meant to be UCLA. He was loyal to preparing for this rivalry, and his players were loyal to him, and his players were loyal to each other. And that's not something you can say across town right now. So the Bruins have a culture. The Bruins have an identity. Do the Bruins have a ways to go still in terms of talent, in terms of expectations, in terms of wins? Absolutely. But they have the fundamental building blocks to be very, very successful moving forward. And that's something you cannot say about the team across town right now.
It's amazing. And, I want to talk about Chip and kind of the whole process in a little bit, but we got to talk about Garbers, man.
Yes.
Garbers, what he did today, it makes me almost emotional thinking about just knowing this roller coaster that this kid has been on. Transferred in, didn't work at Washington, comes down to UCLA, loses the starting job to Dorian for multiple years, gets his kind of moment this year, backfires against him on that interception in the end zone on the second drive of his season against Coastal Carolina, jockeying for the job. It looks like he's getting the job back, flames out really hard 2 games later against Arizona, ankle injury. This kid had everything in his corner in today's society where people, are more understanding of people switching their dream and giving up and, maybe moving on to something else. This guy stayed down for this program, came in there, busted his ass. And, when we needed him most, that ankle injury after Arizona, I thought that was a season-ending injury. It looked horrible when he's coming off the field. He couldn't even put any pressure on it. He was back practicing the next week. And just the performance he delivered. The stats don't paint the whole picture. I thought he did an excellent job of managing the game. 18 of 31, 155 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. No, it wasn't without flaws. He had a fumble. But, you pointed to a word that, courage. The scramble he had, in the first half on that first drive to really
head first.
That 13-yard run that he had to extend the drive. What an absolute, gem of a game this guy had. And just, the epitome of just don't give up, stay the course. And we don't have these wonderful moments if you quit way early along in the line. So I just want to tip my cap to Garbers and, Mr. and Mrs. Garbers. You raised a hell of a kid.
Yes, you did. And you raised a heck of a young man and the quarterback of the UCLA Bruins. And we're very, very proud of him. And we're very proud that he is leading this program and this university on the football field. Will, you said it so well. To me, look at his story. I mean, he's coming, look at the place that he's left now in terms of Washington, in terms of the journey. They have arguably the Heisman Trophy winner this year. He comes to UCLA. He has to battle it out, stay behind DTR, who's an NFL quarterback. He waits his turn. He pays his dues. And now you think, okay, I've paid my dues. It's my time now. And here comes decorated 5-star prodigy Dante Moore. You lose the job. And then you get hurt in the Arizona game after you sort of go up and down in terms of confidence. You said it best, Will. We didn't think he could play again. He couldn't put any weight on it. How easy could it have been for Ethan Garbers to say, you know what, all of these things have gone against me? Maybe it's time for me to shut it down and transfer and go somewhere else for my last year where I can start fresh. It could have been so easy. And it's a thing we do in society all the time now. And it's all about the instant gratification. And he stuck it out. He bided his time. He waited his turn. He worked so hard to get back on the field. And he demonstrated an incredible courage today, Will. His scrambles were so timely. His decision-making was terrific. He found the tight ends in the middle of the field. Every time he got in trouble, he loved finding Loya on those out routes. He made the right play. And then that touchdown on 3rd and goal in that 14-10 game where the defender was hanging on his shoulder and he was about to get sacked. He finds Harden breakaway on that flip to open up that game and set the tone. I'm so proud of Ethan Garbers and his ability, Will, to understand what is needed of him in terms of this is an exceptional defense. This is an exceptional running game. All he needs to do is manage this team. Managing this team is excellence. Checking it down to the tight ends, checking it down to the backs, getting it to Loya on the outside is all we need. Protecting the ball is the key. And he was absolutely phenomenal today. And no matter what happens from here on out, he'll be able to say, I beat the reigning Heisman Trophy winner in his house on his birthday and beat him on by 18 points to save my coach's job and resurrect some energy and passion into this program as they go to the Big Ten. This is one of the most special victories, Will, in recent UCLA football history. And it's all thanks to not just the defense first and foremost, but Ethan Garbers.
And Garbers, to his credit, man, he was masterful in the red zone where those windows are tighter. You got to put the ball in the perfect place for a lot of these. That throw he made to TJ Harden on the rollout where his knee was like this close from going down. It's one of those plays that swung the game. It absolutely swung the game. On 3rd and goal, you're looking at maybe a 4th and goal opportunity. Maybe we send out the field goal unit again that has been struggling all year long. But that touchdown made it 21-10 as opposed to maybe 17-10.
17-10. And huge difference, Will. Okay, when you talk about this Lincoln Riley offense and you talk about Caleb Williams, the difference between a 1-possession game and a 2-possession game is absolutely significant because in that situation, let's look at the scenario there. It was 14-10 at the half. UCLA lost some momentum. They were up 14-0, really had a chance to accelerate and extend. We were at 14-10, first drive of the second half. This was a 5-minute drive. And there was about 9:40 to be played in that game. You get stopped on that. It's 17-10. USC now has the ball a full 3rd quarter. Now you make that play. Now it's a 2-possession game with 9:40 to go in the 3rd quarter. And the defense knows, listen, as long as we stay aggressive and play great, we're going to have an opportunity to win this game. Because if it's only a 1-possession game, you're still worried about making the big mistake. Hey, we're 1 mistake away, just like Davey slipping, for this being tied. And the stadium's going to go crazy. And we're going to blow a 14-0 lead. And we're going to lose all the momentum. So the ability to have a 2-possession game in that moment allowed the defense to stay aggressive and relax, knowing that they had a little bit of margin for error to be aggressive. And that's what ultimately led 3 plays later to Marshawn Lloyd's ball popping out and the scoop and score with Alex Johnson, which then made it a 3-possession game and ultimately ended things for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I mean, just The dog in Garbers came out today on just some of the plays that he was making, and UCLA fans and teammates of Ethan Garbers are forever grateful on what he was able to do today. Just an outstanding performance by that young man, and a guy that we've been waiting for all season long to kind of have his moment. I penciled him as RB1. I thought he was going to be the second best running back in the Pac-12. Lo and behold, Madman, this is when he started peaking last season. This is when he was getting the steam in his engine coming out. TJ Harden had a masterful game today. 22 carries, 142 yards, a touchdown on the ground. We mentioned that touchdown catch he had in the red zone for 9 yards, two catches, 16 yards, and a touchdown. Talk to me about Harden today, because he had a career high on the ground. He was masterful. That 58-yard run was such a big run to seal the deal for us, for UCLA taking the victory at the Coliseum. Harden was outstanding today on all counts.
He was outstanding, Will. No question about it. The stats also, were terrific, but they don't even do him justice, in terms of how impactful he was to this game. I thought what was very significant and why Harden went more in this game than, say, a Carson Steele, and why Chip rode Harden more, was because of the secondary and tertiary cuts that he was making. And so obviously there was zone read. He was able to make a first guy miss. And then there were all of these moments where he would make a secondary cut back inside and a tertiary cut back outside. And every carry got him an additional 2, 3, 4 yards. And so that was so critical. Steele was terrific as kind of the straight line runner. But in this game, when you're playing kind of an undisciplined defense that USC is, you actually need to be able to make those secondary and tertiary variations, because oftentimes they're going to be out of position. Oftentimes they're going to play kind of individual defensive ball. Oftentimes they're going to over pursue. So sometimes they can sort of over pursue by accident in the right place. And so being able to make those cuts was absolutely critical. And I think what I loved so much about Harden was he never fell behind the sticks. Everything was positive. Everything was 2, 3, 4 yards. That was, I think, the one detriment to him this season. There was a little bit too many rushes earlier in the year of 0 yards or negative yards. Here, he was always moving forward and then ultimately found the gap in terms of that 58-yard run. Again, another critical moment there, Will. It was 28-10. USC took a lot of clock to go down the field, made it 28-13. UCLA's defense, again, was so phenomenal in the red zone to hold them to 3, but it was still a 2-possession game with about a minute to go in the third quarter. He said, well, SC still got kind of a puncher's chance here with a 2-possession game, and Harden bust that 58-yard run to set up the field goal. And I thought Chip did a really nice job there, Will, on 3rd and 8 to run with Steele, kind of straight line, to try and make the field goal as easy as possible and push that back to a 3-possession game. But that run essentially put that game away going into the fourth quarter. Harden was phenomenal. Now, hopefully, for Harden's sake, Will, I hope he can take this positivity and turn it into momentum, not just for the end of this season, but going into the following season. Because I think he had similar momentum, Will. We talked about it, particularly that Cal game last year, and he hasn't been able to sort of resurrect that magic from the Cal game and from the bowl game. So let's hope now he's learned those lessons. Again, the word of resilience, patience, loyalty, trusting the process. Hopefully he can be now ready next year to take an even greater step.
And he had moments this year. It was relying on the inability to generate consistent games. Like, he would have the big run every week, it felt like. San Diego State, Coastal Carolina, North Carolina Central. You saw in the first 3 weeks of action, it just didn't translate to the Pac-12. So TJ Harden, if he can bring what we saw today into the Big Ten moving forward, we got a dude out there that's going to be one of the better backs on the top 5 or 6 within the Big Ten next year. I got to ask you this. We saved this one for last.
Yes.
Chip Kelly. I think we were 2 of the last people, on the save Chip Kelly, kind of wagon, if you will. And, the last 2 weeks were the last 2 weeks. They were very tough times. Arizona game, 27-10 loss. Arizona State game, still, I don't think there's a lot of areas you can defend, and what happened in that game and how it played out. I want to say this. I think I am still in the camp where I think it would be wise for UCLA to move on. But with how the university looks at what the football program is we are a basketball school. That's just the plain and simple fact of it. What UCLA and their donors and, not their donors, but their athletic department and the university itself want. This is just my interpretation of what they want as the head coach. 8 to 10 wins each year and a chance to beat your rival every year. And Chip has done that the last 3 years running. He's beaten USC twice at the Coliseum. He's going to, if he beats Cal next week, that's another 8-win season that he's stacking up there. Whether that's right or wrong, whether I think that's, underperforming or overperforming in some of these circumstances, I think that's what the athletic department is. I love how the players responded today. I love what they brought to the table with Chip. I am still on that fence where I would be, looking at different areas. But I think he's going to keep his job after the comments of Wasserman, Jarman, and the resounding victory he had against USC today. Do you think Chip Kelly will be coming back after this win today against USC?
Well, it's such a great question you ask. And while you were sort of talking, I think of the movie I Am Legend, because, you were the second last guy on earth and I was the last guy on earth. In terms of, you were the second last guy on earth after Arizona, and I was still there. And then I was like, man, how do you defend Arizona State? I don't want to do it. It makes me very sad, but I'm going to have to sort of come off of Chip Island. And I said that. But I will say this, Will. I have, I took the life preserver off the Titanic. I have found myself swimming back to shore. Okay. And I will say that resoundingly, and we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all sort of change our minds from time to time. To me, if he beats Cal and he's in a position where he's 8-4 going to a bowl game, I think he's earned the right to come back. And I said, Will, at the start of this season, I expected this team to be 9-3 in the regular season. If you look back, obviously we talked about it, 3 games where they were going to be the underdog, that they were probably going to win one of those 3 games, and then they were going to have, all the other games where they were the favorites, and they were probably going to drop one where they were a favorite. Ultimately, Will, they found a way. They were, if they can win this game, get to 8-4, it's not 9-3. But when you beat your rival as resoundingly as you did and win by 18, Chip Kelly this is 2 consecutive victories in the Coliseum. That has not been done since 1998 with Bob Toledo, and then going back to the Donahue years. When you look at, we talk about the Mora era of being kind of the golden era of UCLA football, 29 wins in 3 years. Will, if he wins next week, he's going to have 25 wins in 3 years, with an opportunity for 26 in the bowl game. And when you think about 3 of those wins recently, you're talking about last year's Heisman Trophy winner, possibly this year's Heisman Trophy winner, and a 2-time Pac-12 champion. And so for all the talk about his 6 years and the record, and I get it, and the 6-26, I get it, there's also another side of this coin. And I think if he beats Cal and wins the state championship, beating Cal, Stanford, and USC, and being California state champions, I think he has earned the right to come back for one more year to prove himself, whether or not he is the long-term solution. I believe he is the long-term solution, but he needs to be able to prove it on the field with wins and losses in a very quantifiable way. And I go back to this, Will. When you've got your number one booster, literally number one, the billionaire, Casey Wasserman, from Los Angeles royalty, Hollywood royalty, the Wasserman Football Center, the prodigal son of football royalty and UCLA royalty, defending him so strongly. When you have the athletic director defending him so strongly, when you have your starting quarterback defending him so strongly, there's got to be something there about, if everyone is so aligned to his defense, there are things I'm sure that they are seeing that even fans that are on the outside are not seeing. And so I get it. He's right on the fence. We're probably going to be back here a week from now if something goes wrong in this Cal game. But if he wins this Cal game, I think he's earned the right to come back. And I think when it comes time to recruiting, the only thing I'll say is Derek McFall was about to leave. He had a ticking clock when the talk about Chip and his firing was heating up. He was going to decommit. Dante Moore was going to decommit. Guys were going to decommit. So is he the most terrific recruiter? No. But I think there's an opportunity for him with Martin Jarman to sit down with him and say, listen, let's do a little bit more with Ken Norton Jr. Let's do a little bit more with Jerry Neuheisel. Let's do a little bit more with Deshaun Foster on the recruiting front. Let's beef that up and let you kind of people manage, game manage, and offensively manage. I think he's earned that right. When you beat the rival in the Coliseum and you shut it down and you beat the reigning Heisman Trophy winner and you beat a guy who's making $100 million a year as the highest paid coach in your sport and you beat him by 18 and every other key member of this program has your support and has your back, there's no reason the fan shouldn't have his back for at least one more season. There's one value, Will, that we pride in above all the others as UCLA Bruins, and I'm a two-time UCLA Bruin, and that is loyalty. Loyalty matters in life. And what you saw across town is you saw players that aren't loyal to their logo. They're not loyal to their school. They're not loyal to their coach. They're not loyal to each other. Chip is loyal, and the people around him are loyal to him. So as fans, let's be loyal to him for one more year.
Yeah, and I think he's going to get it. All those signs, whether it was Wasserman, whether it was Jarman, whether it was the victory today and what he was able to put out there today was special. He's definitely coming back for UCLA next season. Madman, what a day November 18th was for UCLA and all of its fans. Such an honor to be able to do this with you week in and week out.
Likewise, brother. Likewise.
This is a day I'll never forget, just covering the team and just seeing the resounding efforts to get off the ropes and fight back when they needed it most. UCLA taking it to the Trojans at the Coliseum, 38-20. Best of luck, guys. I'm going to be doing the downward, what Ethan Garbers did in the end zone today.
Yes.
The fight on downward.
4+4, baby. 4+4. The 8 clap. UCLA fight.
Let's go, baby. Let's talk soon, guys. Going to be a wild week with Cal in town. We'll be in touch. Go Bruins, baby. 4's up. This was a hell of a day.